Shakespeare once wrote that all the world's a stage, and the people merely players. In this sense, a very real sense, movies serve a societal purpose. They program white people on how they are to see themselves and how they are to see non-white people. And since the world is the stage, as white people they are the stars, and everyone else, unimportant supporting cast, there for comic relief or to praise said white person for being so awesome. The purpose of the Oscars was to establish a way of bestowing prestige upon these works of white aggrandizement, to give a certification of greatness to films that express and enforce this value system the best. A handful of people in Hollywood, mostly black, say the Oscars is a whites-only club, and whites in Hollywood finally stop being polite about how much they've always hated black people. The white backlash to the mounting possibility of a boycott is for whites to claim that this is all because Jada Pinkett Smith got her nose bent out of joint because Will Smith didn't get a nomination. And while it's true that Jada Pinkett Smith has only just now figured out there was something rotten in Tinseltown, the truth is the Oscar blackout issue and the discontent it's generated has been going on a long time. Back in 1996, there was an uproar, this one spearheaded by Jesse Jackson because out of the 166 nominees that year, only one was black. There was some picketing, the same empty promises of changes by the Academy, and then the issue went away. Jackson's job was to control Negro outrage and to ensure it didn't turn into a black movie industry that would compete with his white paymasters, which is exactly what he did. Hollywood is conducted like a slave plantation, and it now seems there's a revolt in the servants' quarters, and Hollywood's white establishment is being put on the hot seat, a position they never expected to be in, caused by people they never expected to confront them. Black people need to stop pretending like Hollywood racism is new or unexpected. Hollywood was founded specifically on anti-black racism. D.W. Griffith is considered the father of cinema due to his anti-black white supremacist polemic Birth of a Nation, and Hollywood's practice of denigrating black people, relegating us to roles of servants, sidekicks, or buffoons has continued unabated. By the way, George Clooney in his 2006 Oscar speech actually congratulated his fellow white movie makers for being so progressive.
We're the ones who talk about AIDS when it was just being whispered, and we talked about civil rights when it wasn't really popular, and we bring up subjects. We were the ones. This Academy, this group of people gave Hattie McDaniel an Oscar in 1939 when blacks were still sitting in the backs of theaters. I'm proud to be a part of this Academy.
But then, only a few years later, Octavia Spencer gets an Academy Award for playing a maid. While George Clooney has been trying to climb back on his high horse during this Oscar sit-out debate, I wonder if he'll ever reference his idiotic 2006 speech. Somehow, I doubt it. The media attention on this issue has been high, and white Hollywood has responded, but rather than remain quiet, the white supremacists are lashing out. No matter what anyone tries to tell you, the problem is not that the Academy members are old. This isn't an issue of age, because this is the same Academy that gave Heath Ledger an Oscar just a few years ago for playing a comic book villain. And just last year they gave the Best Picture award to Birdman, a movie where Michael Keaton plays a former comic book movie star trying to be taken seriously in the world of dramatic theater. They gave a Best Song Oscar to 3 6 Mafia for It's Hard Out Here for a Pimp. So this is not a case of stodgy old white guys who can't relate to anything black. This is a case of white people in general who are tired of pretending to not hate black people. Recently, The Hollywood Reporter spoke to former screenwriter and current has-been Jeremy Larner. His only claim to fame is having written a movie for Robert Redford back in the 70s. Well, the writer of the article, clearly realizing Larner was outing himself as a racist, tried to preemptively insulate him by telling us he once was a civil rights activist. The same way Mark O'Mara is a civil rights attorney, I would imagine. The media loves to use that term to give white supremacists cover. Perhaps someone should have told the folks at the Hollywood Reporter that protesting the Vietnam War isn't civil rights. The screenwriters of Straight Outta Compton were nominated for an Oscar, but then Larner turns right around and says he didn't nominate the movie itself for anything because, quote, I happen to think Straight Outta Compton is not a great film for reasons of structure and substance. Oh, but the Writers' Conference of the Academy did think that the screenplay was Oscar-worthy. Well, a movie can't be any better than its screenplay, so why the hell did they nominate it for an Oscar? Because the screenwriters for that movie are two white people, while the director and the actors are all black. Larner then goes on to get to his real point, that black people are the only ones who liked the movie because they felt it was personally validating. Quote, I can imagine it is a powerful affirmation for those who share the assumptions of its music and see it as fans, but to me, a good film has to show a lot more than this one does. There it is, using the oblique language of the liberal bigot. Even though he contradicts himself, he keeps right on talking because racism isn't rational. This is not a critique of the movie's artistic merit that Larner is making. This is a feeble editorial criticizing the movie's narrative point of view and the fact that this was the first movie about the music industry that didn't have a white musician or white manager or white music producer as the lead character. I would also imagine that if you asked Larner how he felt about black men saying F the police, he'd probably lecture you about how courageous the cops are and how dangerous their job is. Many blacks, and non-blacks for that matter, feel Straight Outta Compton was affirming. For Larner to criticize this is the height of white hypocrisy. Take a look at the white movies the Academy gives awards to. When you see the accolades that they heap on these movies, they say things like uplifting, a triumph, and even words like affirming. This is the old racial double standard, where anything black is automatically of lesser value. Doesn't matter how great a performance Denzel gives, it will automatically be considered less than what a white actor does, not because it isn't objectively better, but because the whites in the Academy, like Larner, see themselves as protecting some sort of racial turf. This is the Oscar website. It shows who's been nominated for what. Here are the best picture contenders for this year. Now, we see a few of the typical Oscar bait flicks from the usual has-beens and never-going-to-be's, but we also see some other things as well. Mad Max Fury Road has been nominated for Best Picture. Mad Max? Really? I saw Mad Max Fury Road, and it was nothing but white people racing across the desert for 2 hours. That's it. I'm not making that up. It was literally like NASCAR in the Sahara. So white people driving cars in a circle for 2 straight hours is best picture material, but 4 black men fighting their way to the top of America's music industry and in the process redefining music itself is somehow not compelling? Only in the minds of white people. I also see that our open-minded friend Matt Damon is up for an award. One would have to be a fool to think this clown, who couldn't overact his way out of a paper bag, suddenly got nominated this year because he was so good in The Martian. No, this smells more like a reward for his having attacked black talent on that crappy reality show. Kinda reminds you of how the racist former DA of Staten Island, Dan Donovan, refused to prosecute the murdering cop Pantaleo, and the Democrats immediately gave him a seat in Congress. White supremacy makes sure to reward those who boldly stand for it. Now you understand why Matt Damon was able to talk as dirty about black talent as he did. He knew he had the full backing and support of Hollywood's white power brokers. But Matt Damon is the last one who needs to be talking about merit. Were it not for his and Ben Affleck's close working relationship with the Weinsteins during the 90s, no one would know or care who either of them was today. And unless you've forgotten, the Weinsteins were the ones who produced both The Butler and Django Unchained. Let's be clear here. This isn't a case of a 60-year-old group of white males who don't get it. Listen to what they say, and they clearly tell you they do get it, and that's the reason they don't like it. If Paul Giamatti's Jerry Heller had gotten more screen time in Straight Outta Compton, he would be up for an Oscar. But because the filmmakers intelligently minimized his role and put the emphasis on the black men where it belonged, the Academy is overlooking it. And it should surprise no one that not one of these white people is daring to mention Creed. Ryan Coogler managed to revive the franchise that Stallone killed 30 years ago and pulled off a miracle. He actually made Stallone into an actor. The Academy's response? Give Stallone a nomination and ignore Michael B. Jordan and Ryan Coogler. And since Coogler wrote the script, they're going to ignore that too. Oscar-worthy means white. Sure, Charlotte Rampling is running her jowly geriatric mouth. She might as well at her age. Chances are the only way she'll be seen at next year's Oscars will be in the in memoriam section. But now that Chelsea Clinton has spoken against her, Rampling is trying to walk back her racist words and tell us all that she didn't say what she clearly said. And she's not alone. Roger Moore stated that James Bond doesn't embody a set of values. He is solely a paradigm of race. Michael Caine, while not necessarily crossing the line into full-fledged racism, showed himself to be a clueless white man. He claimed black talents need to be patient. After all, he didn't get his first Oscar until he was 31. Never mind that most of the people being overlooked for Oscars this year are already over the age of 40 and haven't been so much as nominated. So this is who comprises the Academy: the clueless, the malicious, and the outright racist. What kind of mentality does it take to automatically dismiss the industry's best work simply because the people making it aren't white? A perverse mentality. That's what. Boycotting the Oscars is not what we need, because we don't need their awards show or their industry for that matter. What we need is our own. All demanding more inclusion on the Academy's voting board will do is keep us chasing the carrot of white acceptance. We keep playing a game with these white supremacists. They claim not to be solely motivated by psychopathic racism, and we pretend that some of them might be telling the truth, all the while both of us knowing that it's all a lie. We've allowed ourselves to become trapped in a vicious cycle of racist abuse. They hit us, we complain about being hit, they pat us on the head and then hit us again, and the cycle goes on like that, generation after generation. We don't need a less racist Academy. We need a pro-black one. Black people need to understand that. The Arabs thought that oil money would get them white acceptance. It didn't. The European made it clear that the Arab's money didn't make him the equal of a white man. And the same goes for black people when it comes to media. We can use the few opportunities the studios give to create high-caliber work, but neither our creative skill or talent will make whites see black people as equals, not even in something that they claim is supposed to be all about the art. Bill Maher recently weighed in on this issue. When it comes to stupid remarks, Maher tends to run hot and cold. Sometimes he's got his head on straight, other times he's full of crap. Last Friday was one of his bad days. He fell back on the old Hollywood lie that it's not that Hollywood is racist, it's that China is, and they want to sell to China. Maher was all over the place trying to make excuses for Hollywood's inherent racism. At first he said,
people who said, Academy members who said they did not see 12 Years a Slave, still voted for it because they just knew it was the best picture, or should be.
Then, right after saying that the Academy shamelessly recognizes films with black people in it, he contradicts himself by saying,
part of it is, and this is the dirty little secret, is that most movies are made now with an eye to the foreign market.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
And Asians really are racist. They don't want to see black people generally in their movies. So that's, and you know,
this lie about black people not being liked is the oldest lie in the entertainment business. This is the same as when the studios said they couldn't make movies with black leads because the racists in the Deep South wouldn't like it. Then, when that lie failed, they claimed they couldn't sell black movies overseas, where 2/3 of the box office comes from, at first because of racist Japan, and now because of racist China. For decades, white people said that no black person could ever lead a successful TV drama on U.S. television because no American audience wants to see blacks on TV. It's not the networks, they said, it's those racist audiences. And although there were many shows that tried to crack that glass ceiling, the reason they failed was because white people wanted them to. These shows were produced and written by white people, given lackluster storylines, pitiful direction, and little media support. But more than that, success in media is largely a numbers game. Studios produce dozens of movies, but it's only 2 or 3 that generate the big dollars that keep the studio in business. So when you only produce 1 or 2 hood movies a year, limit how much you promote them domestically, and all but refuse to promote them overseas, you're creating a self-fulfilling prophecy. More movies or TV shows means more chances for success, which means you make more of what worked, and so on. A virtuous cycle. However, the opposite is also true. If you only make one show every few years with black people as the lead, then that is a do-or-die proposition, and when they handicap it 6 ways from Sunday, failure is guaranteed. And for 5 decades, that's exactly what happened where the subject of black dramatic television in the U.S. was concerned. Then along came the triple whammy of scandal, empire, and power. Now, I'm no fan of any of those shows or their creators, but the major thing their collective success has done is to kill the lie that no drama with a black lead could be successful on U.S. TV. Now there's 3 of them. 4 if you dare to include Luther. And they're each the #1 show on their respective networks. This is a seminal moment in media history, though it doesn't surprise me that the white media is trying to pretend that it's not happening. Their strategy is easy enough to see. They're hoping these shows will begin to fade, or perhaps their ratings will crater altogether, and they'll be canceled. If that occurs, then all of a sudden these same white people will suddenly come out of the woodwork and spend all day and night trumpeting the deaths of these shows, saying, "See, we knew it couldn't last." Never mind that these same white people made cult hits out of one-season wonders like Firefly and Twin Peaks. White shows that fail aren't held up as lacking value. Black ones are.